Are you an independent musician feeling overwhelmed by the endless act of juggling creativity, business, and self-care? You're not alone. That's why I created the Artist Mind Map. The Artist Mind Map is a free blueprint designed to help you get clear on the route you need to take to attain your career goals in alignment to your artistic values. This is not just another random PDF page for the forgotten corners of your hard disk. It's a timeless roadmap you can use for decades to come. Think of it as a go-to overview to consult. When you grab your free mind map, you get exclusive access to a masterclass that will take your career to the next level. I use the same methodologies and systems for my high-end paying clients and students. So why am I giving it to you for free? Simple. I want to build a community of artists who can count on each other for safe spaces. Music saved my life. I believe that you have all that it takes to be the artist you were meant to be, if you're willing to put in the work. And more importantly, understanding what that work is. And the Artist Mind Map was designed to help you do exactly that. So if this resonates with you, go to artistmindmap.com and download this resource. artistmindmap.com. The true essence of mentorship means looking past the buzzword. A real mentor isn't someone who's polishing your next single for the algorithm or your next campaign. They're a guide who holds space for your entire journey, creative, human, and messy. In a world crowded with shortcuts, the difference lies in lived craft and soul. Real mentorship goes deeper than strategy. It weaves together the psychological and the artistic, the creative with the career steps and the inner work. So growth feels authentic, not manufactured. Today's episode unpacks the myths and points to what matters. A mentor who's both a practicing creative himself and a trusted guide, who understands that evolution is about becoming, not just producing. Mentoring at its best is sacred. It's where introspection meets sustainable success. And if you're searching, maybe it's time to ask not just who can speed you up, but who can help you grow into the artist you already carry within. Let's discuss. Welcome to another session solo cast. These solo casts were designed to help independent artists and musicians like you navigate the very complex labyrinth that is your artistic practice and career. They're based on empirical research and experiences of my own career as an independent musician and an educator and coach working with artists just like you. The primary aim behind these sessions is to offer accessibility to the kind of education many of us need to work with in order to forward ourselves in these very confusing times as empowered and independent artists in the truest sense of the word. If you've been lurking online around music spaces, creative spaces, chances are you've seen the word mentor tossed around like free drink tokens at a networking mixer. It's everywhere. On Instagram bios, email funnels, websites promising to quote-unquote unlock your potential in 3 easy steps, or 90 minutes, or 48 hours. Mentorship has become a buzzword, and in too many cases, a cleverly disguised hustle. For artists or creatives of any sort, especially those of us navigating this thing independently on our own budget, the stakes can often be too high to fall for sleek branding over substance. So, how do you really find a mentor who's worth their weight in wisdom? That's what I'm going to try and explain and help you out with in today's episode. In order to do so, I'd like to start off with what mentorship is not. Mentorship isn't someone spoon-feeding you cookie-cutter strategies. It's not a glorified accountability buddy who read some bleached self-help book once and now charges $5,000 from pep talks from a straw hut on an island somewhere. And it's definitely not someone who's never released a track or never actually worked on a piece of art or any kind of creative project, but has some Canva-made funnel called, Artist Accelerator with 100% ROI promises. Real mentorship runs deeper. It's relational, nuanced, and I dare say spiritual. It invites you into your own becoming, not just your next campaign. The first point I'd like to address today, something I'm hoping is going to help you find a mentor that works for you, no pun intended, is depth and why it matters. Moreover, how you can spot it. In an era obsessed with surface-level results, depth is the rebel. A proper mentor doesn't just help you launch a promo campaign. They help you understand why you're creating art at all. They will challenge you to refine your voice, not just your content calendar. And here's the kicker. Many so-called mentors aren't trained to go that deep in the first place. Some lack real academic training in crucial areas like pedagogy, psychology, or even the actual art itself. That doesn't necessarily make them evil, but it does mean they might not be equipped to guide you through the complexities of true growth, well-being, or building a sustainable career. Research backs this up. A study published in the Journal of Vocational Behavior way back in 2004, but I'd contend is still relevant in 2025, found that mentorship is most effective when it combines both psychosocial support and career development. Something a lot of untrained mentors will often miss in this day and age. In my self-study course, Complete Independent Artist Roadmap, CIAR, we dive into these layers: craft, mindset, industry, inner alignment. Because artists don't grow in silos, you grow as a whole person. Forgive me for the shameless plug here, but I did want to make a real-life example from my own experience. So that's number one, depth, why it matters and how to spot it. Number two, look for a practicing artist, not just a consultant. One of the most overlooked factors in choosing a mentor, whether they themselves are still in the trenches. The artist's journey isn't just about a business model, it's a living practice. Working with someone who still writes, performs, records, or experiments creatively means they get it. Too many coaches, agencies, and industry players offer quote-unquote mentorship while having no direct experience with what it feels like to finish a song that doesn't get picked up, finish a painting that doesn't get an exhibition to be displayed in, finish a project or put your heart and soul into your startup company even, and yet not find the kind of results we are hoping for. And in the case of musicians and artists, sometimes dealing with situations where you're performing for just 7 people in a room without even a proper sound system sometimes. These are realities of some of the struggles artists deal with. And dealing with the self-doubt that comes as a result is not just about generic paradigms of self-help, but have roots in a struggle involving deeply sensitive and empathetic psyches that were not inherently built to be part of an industry in the first place. So advice like this can not just sound tone deaf, but often really is tone deaf. Because frankly, a lot of these mentors are working from a completely different lens altogether. In my coaching sessions, for example, we sit with these uncomfortable truths because that's where the transformation begins. Not in hype, not in hacks, but in honesty. Number 3, the ROI is in the long game. Now, for those of you who don't know what ROI stands for, it's return on investment. If you're a fine arts practitioner, a painter or a sculptor or a visual artist or a musician who doesn't have anything to do with primarily industrial streams in the first place, you might not be familiar with this terminology or concept. It was traditionally used for measuring the financial returns of the finances you're investing into a project, and has been transferred over to artistic circles as well, since we have established by now, if you've listened to any of my earlier podcasts, that most artists or creatives are a business by default, whether we like it or not, and regardless of the model we're following. The problem is, a lot of times, the investment we are putting in doesn't necessarily come in a purely financial way. Bear with. Mentorship from this context, generally speaking, is obviously not a shortcut. Yeah, it's a slow burn. So the real ROI, the real investment, and the real return on it may not be what you think it is. It may not be direct financial returns. It may not be 1 million Instagram followers overnight who don't actually give a shit about your work. The real ROI, in my humble opinion, are things like clarity, confidence, getting your art together, and yes, eventually career growth, but rooted in something very different to what generic business advice will point you towards. Being you and expressing the same on your own terms. Unfortunately, we live in a world wired for instant gratification. Some mentors tap into that by selling quick wins, follower growth, playlist ads, or viral hacks, but this often comes at the expense of sustainable, soulful development. A 2022 review in Psychology of Aesthetics, Creativity and the Arts by Kaufman and Beghetto, my apologies if I didn't pronounce that second name properly, showed that long-term creative fulfillment correlates more with intrinsic motivation and support rather than with external rewards. So, when choosing a mentor, ask, will this person help me grow or just help me grow faster, quote unquote, grow faster? Because the fastest route isn't always the right one. Number 4, discernment, a word that doesn't get enough credit for the role it plays in a creative's lifestyle. Discernment amidst the hype, how to pick out a potential mentor for your needs amidst it all. I'll give you a little mini checklist to keep handy to get this thing done. Here are a few questions to ask yourself when you're in the process of choosing a mentor. Do they have real-world experience as an artist, not just as a coach or a marketer? Do they have academic credentials? I realize academia has seen better days as far as its positioning is concerned, but there is a certain thoroughness the training will give those who have gone through the rites of their passage that does not necessarily get substituted by street cred by default. Inversely, make sure they do have some street cred, because the immediate polar opposite is the mad professor lost outside the walls of their echo chambers, which can be as bad. Ideally, work with someone who can hold their ground both inside and out. I can confirm after working with the likes of Dr. John Matthias, Kenny Werner, excuse the name dropping, but I am proud to have had these men as some of my mentors, that the results can be life-changing. Some more points to look out on. Are they certified or trained in mentorship of some kind, education or a relevant psychological framework? I kid you not, I saw an ad on my feed a few days back on getting certified as a coach for 99 cents. 99 cents, folks. These are some of the coaches who are out there pitching their work to bait people like you and me as clients after doing a certification course for 99 cents. Do the math on that, literally. How much money have you spent on your art or on your creative pursuits? A little more than 99 cents, I'd guess. That wouldn't even cover a paintbrush or a cable. My friend and esteemed colleague Vivian Aerts, Berkeley faculty, clinical psychologist and vocalist, or legendary artist and author Sheila Chandra, who was a guest on my podcast, are pioneering examples of how interdisciplinary knowledge can empower you in ways you didn't even think possible. Now, do they talk about numbers or nuance? This is big because you, as a creative, are not a mere metric, and neither is your art. Also, can they hold space for your vulnerability? This is big. Can they hold space for your vulnerability? Or do they rush you toward a goalpost? Creativity is inherently non-linear, conforming to archaic, somewhat masculine, I say this from an energetic lens, those of you who get it, masculine, rational approaches with a primarily product-based lens, which probably has its roots in the industrial development, which was all about equating productivity with efficiency, mass production. All of this is not something that's equipped to fulfill you long-term as a creative professional. And last but not the least, do they speak to your soul as much as your strategy? Now, the word soul may not land well for some of you, depending on what your belief systems are, and that's absolutely fine. But if that's not a word that works for you, ask if something within, inside, resonates. Not just your mind, not just your brain, not just your egoic self, but do the statements these so-called mentors make actually resonate with you? I believe creativity is the language of our souls and transcends cultural idiosyncrasies or short-term ROI goals or even socio-political factors. Not to imply that any of these are completely irrelevant, but at the core, we're looking at something a lot bigger here. So, if your gut says something is off, listen. Your intuition is an underrated compass in the business of being an artist. My fifth point for today is a word on integrity and value. Now, I'll be real with you. I've met incredible artists who've been burned by mentors promising the world, only to be left broke, confused, and creatively blocked. Yours truly included to varying degrees. That's not what mentorship should feel like. One of my priorities when I started the Holistic Musician Academy was that every layer of mentorship offered, whether it's one-on-one sessions or a self-paced course or group coaching, is rooted in lived experience, somewhat academic grounding as well, but lived experience and an understanding of the emotional and intuitive terrain of being an artist timelessly. Stress on the word timelessly, because integrity is timeless. You want to integrate all of what you need to long-term and timelessly. No industry trend is going to change that. Influence, inform, yes. But it's the one thing nobody gets to take away from us, that timeless quality. And the one thing we do have complete agency over. That point of view may not be for everyone, and is probably not even designed to sell out stadiums in 6 months. But it is for the ones who know that the real journey is inward. A little outward too, but inside out, and not the other way around. Final thoughts today. Mentorship is sacred. It's not slick. So if you're seeking one, know this. For one, you're not weak. You're not lost. You're ready. And you're probably wiser and more intelligent than you think. But that being said, when you choose wisely as well. The right mentor won't turn you into a copy of themselves. They'll turn a mirror toward you and wait while you remember who you are. Some actionable steps you can take in order to help you further with this entire process. Number 1, audit your needs. What are you looking for? Craft, mindset, industry guidance, or emotional support? Number 2, research the mentor's background. Are they actively practicing, qualified, aligned with your values? Number 3, watch out for red flags. Generic strategies, high-pressure sales tactics, or a lack of transparency. Not a good sign. Number 4, start small. Explore free content, webinars, lower ticket courses. I have a $17 CIR course variant, for example, called Independent Kickstarter. Check out those to see if our values align, for example. Or check out podcasts by yours truly or any other mentor you might be considering. And number 5, ask the hard questions. How do these mentors define success? What does mentorship mean to them? What frameworks do they use? Do they align with your goals, your vision? Remember, your journey deserves depth. And depth is not a trend. It's a timeless, sacred space to nurture. Hope that helps. Hey folks, I hope you found that episode helpful. Here's a little request. If you did, consider sharing this episode with your folks. Think about the ways in which they might benefit the way you did. And please don't ever hesitate to reach out if you have queries. My name's TL. I'm an independent musician and educator and the founder of the Holistic Musician Academy.